Jack Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he checked the mining equipment one more time. The sun beat down hard on the desert surface of Kestros 7, and even his protective suit struggled to keep him cool. He had been working at this remote mining colony for 3 years now, far from Earth, and far from anything exciting. Most days were the same. Check the equipment, fix what broke, go back to his small room, and sleep. But today felt different. Jack heard the alarm before he saw anything wrong. The colony's detection system was screaming about something in the northern mountains. He pulled up his datapad and stared at the readings. Something big had just crashed into the planet. Something with an energy signature he had never seen before. "Morrison, stay where you are." Greg Palmer's voice crackled through his comm unit. Greg ran the colony and he always played it safe. "We're reporting this to the Galactic Council. They'll send someone to investigate." Jack looked at the mountains. They were only 10 miles away. The council would take days to respond. Maybe weeks. Whatever had crashed might need help now. He thought about his time in the military, back when he served as a medic. The first rule was simple. Get to the injured as fast as possible. "Sorry, Greg," Jack muttered. He turned off his comm unit and climbed into his rover. The drive took 30 minutes over rough terrain. Jack followed the energy readings until he saw the crash site. A ship had carved a deep trench through the red rock, leaving a trail of debris and smoke. The vessel itself was huge, bigger than anything humans built. Its design was strange, all curves and sharp edges at the same time. Jack had never seen this kind of ship in any database. He parked the rover and approached carefully. The ship's hull was torn open in several places. Jack climbed through one of the gaps, using his flashlight to see in the darkness inside. The air smelled burnt and wrong. He found the crew quickly. They were dead, all of them. The beings were enormous, easily twice Jack's height even lying down. They had scales that shimmered in his flashlight beam, and their bodies were built like nothing Jack had ever seen. They looked like the dragons from old Earth stories, but real. Their mouths were filled with sharp teeth, and their claws could have torn through metal. These creatures had been powerful, but whatever had caused the crash had killed them all. Jack was about to leave when he heard a sound. A small chirp, weak and scared. He followed the noise deeper into the ship. In what looked like a cargo area, he found debris piled high. Something moved underneath it. Jack carefully lifted pieces of metal and broken containers. His hands touched something warm and scaly. The baby dragon hissed at him. It was small, no bigger than a cat, with dark blue scales and bright yellow eyes. One of its wings was bent at a bad angle, and it had cuts all over its body. The hatchling tried to breathe fire at Jack, but only managed a small puff of smoke. It was terrified and in pain. Jack's medical training took over. He moved slowly, speaking in a soft voice, even though the creature probably could not understand him. He pulled out his field medical kit and examined the baby dragon carefully. The wing was broken but could be set. The cuts needed cleaning. The creature was also dehydrated and weak from shock. "Easy there, little one," Jack whispered. "I'm going to help you." The baby dragon snapped at him but was too weak to do real damage. Jack worked quickly, using what he had. He set the wing and wrapped it carefully. He cleaned the wounds with antiseptic spray. He even managed to get some water into the hatchling's mouth, using a dropper. When he finished, the baby dragon stopped hissing. It looked at Jack with those bright yellow eyes, and something in its expression changed. It chirped again, but softer this time. Jack made a decision. He could not leave the creature here. He wrapped it in his jacket and carried it back to his rover. The baby dragon was surprisingly heavy for its size, and it trembled against his chest during the entire drive back. Getting past Greg was easy. The colony administrator was too busy dealing with reports about the crash to notice Jack sneaking into his quarters. Jack's room was small, just a bed, a desk, and a tiny bathroom. He set up a makeshift nest using blankets and placed the baby dragon inside. The creature watched him with suspicious eyes but did not try to run. It was too weak for that. Jack spent the next 3 days searching through every database he could access. He found nothing about these dragon creatures. They were not listed in any galactic registry. No one had ever reported meeting them. It was like they did not exist in official records. But Jack was good at improvising. He studied Earth reptiles and made educated guesses. He figured out what temperature the baby needed. He experimented with different foods until he found something it would eat. He changed the bandages twice a day and monitored every small change in its condition. On the third day, the baby dragon let Jack touch it without hissing. By the fourth day, it followed him around the small room, making soft, chirping sounds. Jack started calling it Pip, short for Pipsqueak, because of the noises it made. Pip was getting stronger. Its wing was healing well, and it could flap both of them now even if it could not fly yet. It started to play, pouncing on Jack's boots and chasing a small ball he made from spare cloth. When Jack worked at his desk, Pip curled up next to him and fell asleep, making a sound almost like purring. Jack knew he should report this. He knew he was breaking probably a dozen galactic laws by keeping an unknown alien creature in his room. But every time he looked at Pip, he thought about all those dead dragons on the ship. Pip was alone in the universe now, and Jack was the only one who cared whether it lived or died. That changed on the seventh day. The colony alarms went off again. Jack pulled up his datapad and felt his stomach drop. 3 massive warships had just entered the system. The same design as the crashed ship. They were scanning the planet aggressively, and their weapons were powered up. Greg's voice came through the emergency channel, reaching every person in the colony. "Everyone stay calm. We have incoming ships. They're demanding to search the colony." Jack looked at Pip, who was playing with the cloth ball, unaware of the danger. He realized the truth with complete certainty. Those ships were looking for survivors. They were looking for Pip, and they were ready to destroy everything to find what they came for. Jack had to make a choice, and he had to make it fast. Turn Pip over and hope the dragons were reasonable, or hide the hatchling and risk everyone's lives in the colony. Neither option was good. Both could end in disaster. But as Jack watched Pip chirp happily and pounce on its ball, he knew one thing for certain. He had saved this little creature's life, and he was not going to let anything happen to it now, no matter what it cost him. The 3 warships hung in orbit like dark clouds ready to strike. Jack watched the situation unfold through his datapad, while Pip slept peacefully in its nest. The baby dragon had no idea that its own kind were overhead, armed and angry. Greg Palmer's face appeared on every screen in the colony. He looked tired and scared. "The ships are Draknir vessels. That's what they call themselves. Dragons. They say their diplomatic envoy crashed here 8 days ago, and they want to search every building. If we refuse, they'll consider it an act of war." Jack felt cold despite the desert heat outside. 8 days ago. That was when he found the crashed ship. These dragons were looking for survivors, and they were not asking politely. "They're giving us 2 hours to comply," Greg continued. "After that, they're coming down whether we agree or not. Stay in your quarters and wait for instructions." Jack looked at Pip. The hatchling's wing was almost healed now. It could flap and glide short distances. Its cuts had closed, and its scales shone with health. By all logic, Pip should have died in that crash. Jack's improvised medicine should not have worked on an alien creature. But it did work. And now, Pip was thriving. He made his decision. Jack opened a direct channel to the dragon ships. It took him 15 minutes to bypass the colony's communication protocols, but his military training helped. When the channel opened, he heard angry voices speaking in a language his computer could barely translate. "This is Jack Morrison from the mining colony," he said clearly. "I have information about your crashed ship." The line went silent. Then a new voice spoke, deep and filled with barely controlled rage. "Human. This channel is for official communications only. Return to your quarters immediately." "I found your ship," Jack said. "I was there. I saw the crew. I'm sorry, but they were all dead when I arrived." The silence lasted longer this time. When the voice returned, it was colder. "You contaminated our crash site. You will be punished according to galactic law." "I found a survivor," Jack said quickly. "A baby. A hatchling. It was badly hurt, but I've been taking care of it. It's alive and healing. The channel erupted in noise. Multiple voices shouted in the dragon language. Jack heard what sounded like roaring mixed with words. His translator could not keep up with the chaos. Finally, the deep voice returned. You lie. Our scanners detected no life signs in that ship. Nothing could have survived that crash. Your scanners were wrong, Jack said. He picked up Pip, who chirped in confusion at being woken up. He held the hatchling in front of his camera. See for yourself. The effect was immediate. The shouting on the channel stopped completely. Jack heard something that might have been gasping, or the dragon equivalent of shock. I am Voraxis, commander of this fleet, the deep voice said. Every word was controlled now, but Jack could hear the emotion underneath. That hatchling is the daughter of our High Chancellor. She is royalty among our people. Where are you located? Jack sent his coordinates. I'm in the south residential area. Building 7, room 42. Come alone. She's scared of loud noises and sudden movements. I am not coming alone, human. My warriors will accompany me. Then she'll be terrified, Jack said firmly. I've spent a week earning her trust. If you want her calm and healthy when you arrive, you'll do this my way. The silence stretched out. Jack wondered if he had just made a fatal mistake. These were warriors, and he was giving them orders. But finally, Voraxis spoke again. Very well. I will come alone. But if you have harmed her in any way, human, there is no place in this galaxy where you can hide from my vengeance. 20 minutes later, there was a knock on Jack's door. He opened it and found himself staring up at Voraxis. The dragon commander was enormous. He barely fit through the doorway, and he had to duck his head to enter. His scales were deep red with black patterns, and he wore armor that looked both ceremonial and functional. His eyes glowed amber, and his claws scraped against the floor as he moved. Voraxis looked around the small room with those burning eyes. His gaze landed on Pip, who was sitting in her nest and staring at the new dragon with wide eyes. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Pip chirped and launched herself across the room. Her wings spread out, still a bit clumsy, and she glided straight to Voraxis. The baby dragon landed on the commander's armored chest and chirped repeatedly, rubbing her head against his scales. Voraxis caught Pip carefully in his clawed hands. He examined her with a gentle touch that seemed impossible for someone so large and dangerous-looking. He looked at her wing, at the healed cuts, at her bright eyes and healthy scales. Then he looked at Jack. She should be dead, Voraxis said quietly. Our medical scans of the crash site showed catastrophic damage to all life forms. There was no possibility of survival. She was trapped under debris, Jack explained. It protected her from the worst of it, but she had a broken wing and multiple lacerations. She was in shock and severely dehydrated. Voraxis pulled out a small device and scanned Pip. He stared at the readings for a long time. These readings make no sense. Her wing was broken in 3 places. This type of injury takes months to heal, yet it has been only 8 days. Her growth rate has accelerated beyond normal parameters. He looked at Jack with suspicion. What did you do to her? I treated her injuries the best I could, Jack said. I used my medical training and adapted it for her biology. I studied Earth reptiles and made educated guesses about what she needed. Educated guesses, Voraxis repeated slowly. He looked at his scanner again, then at Pip, who was now trying to chew on his armor. Human medicine is primitive compared to ours. Your technology is centuries behind dragon medical science, yet you succeeded where our best healers would have failed. Sometimes simple is better, Jack said with a shrug. I just paid attention to what she needed and adjusted as I went. When one thing did not work, I tried something else. Voraxis set Pip down gently. The hatchling immediately ran to Jack and climbed up his leg, perching on his shoulder. She chirped at Voraxis as if introducing her 2 favorite people. She has bonded with you, Voraxis observed. This is unusual. Draknir hatchlings typically bond only with their parents or designated guardians. Yet, she treats you as family. I took care of her, Jack said. I guess she knows that. Voraxis was quiet for a moment. Then he did something Jack did not expect. The massive dragon commander bowed his head. You saved the High Chancellor's daughter. You prevented what would have been a catastrophic incident for our people. The death of a hatchling, especially one of royal blood, would have triggered ancient laws of vengeance. We would have destroyed this colony and every human settlement in this sector. You have prevented a war through your actions. Jack felt sick. I didn't know any of that. I just saw a hurt baby and wanted to help. That makes it more remarkable, Voraxis said. He straightened up and looked at Jack with those glowing eyes. The High Chancellor must meet you. He must understand how a human with primitive medicine accomplished what should have been impossible. Will you come to our homeworld? Jack looked at Pip, who chirped and nuzzled against his neck. Do I have a choice? You always have a choice, Voraxis said, but I believe you would want to come. The hatchling has bonded to you. She will be distressed if you are separated from her. And there is another reason. No. No. What reason? Voraxis looked uncomfortable, which was strange for such a powerful being. Draknir hatchlings are dying. Our survival rate is only 40%. Despite all our medical advances, despite all our technology, we cannot determine why so many of our young do not survive. You saved a hatchling who should have died. You did it with methods we do not understand. The High Chancellor wishes to learn from you. Jack thought about it. He thought about Pip and how she trusted him. He thought about all those baby dragons dying despite advanced medicine. He thought about how he would feel if he said no and later learned he could have helped. I'll come, Jack said. But I have conditions. Voraxis raised what might have been an eyebrow. You negotiate with the commander of the Draknir fleet? You're asking for my help. That means I get to set some terms. Jack held up his hand and counted on his fingers. First, the mining colony is left alone. No punishment, no investigation, nothing. Second, I want protection for any other humans who might get involved in this later. Third, I come back home when I want to. Not when you tell me to. Voraxis considered this. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. It was a terrifying expression with all those teeth. But Jack recognized it as genuine. The High Chancellor said, humans were bold. I see he was correct. Very well. I accept your conditions. Gather what you need. We leave within the hour. Jack packed quickly. He did not have much worth taking. Some clothes, his medical kit, and a few personal items. Pip sat on his shoulder the entire time, making happy chirps and occasionally trying to eat his hair, as Jack prepared to leave his room for what might be months or even years. He looked at the small space one last time. A week ago, his life was simple and boring. Now he was about to travel to an alien homeworld to teach dragons how to save their children, all because he stopped to help one small creature who needed him. Sometimes, Jack thought, the smallest choices led to the biggest changes. The dragon homeworld called Drakara appeared in the view screen like something from a dream. The planet glowed with volcanic activity, and massive crystalline mountains rose from its surface. Jack could see cities built into the rock faces, glowing with lights that shifted between red and gold. Everything about the planet looked fierce and beautiful at the same time. Pip pressed against the window, chirping excitedly. She had never seen her homeworld before, having been in the egg during the diplomatic journey. Now her eyes were wide with wonder. We will land at the capital, Voraxis explained. The High Chancellor waits for us there. He has been informed of your conditions and has agreed to them. The ship descended through layers of atmosphere that shimmered with colors Jack had no names for. They landed in a massive courtyard, surrounded by buildings that looked carved from single pieces of crystal. Dragons of all colors moved through the streets. Some walking on 4 legs, others on 2. They were all huge. The smallest ones still twice Jack's size. When Jack stepped off the ship with Pip on his shoulder, every dragon in sight stopped and stared. The silence was complete and uncomfortable. Jack had never felt so small and out of place in his life. "They are surprised to see a human here," Voraxis said quietly, "and more surprised to see the Chancellor's daughter perched on your shoulder. Walk with confidence. Show no fear." Easy for him to say, Jack thought. But he straightened his back and walked forward like he belonged there. They entered the largest building, a palace carved from red and black stone. Inside, the halls were wide enough to fit 10 humans, side by side. Dragons bowed as Voraxis passed, but their eyes followed Jack with expressions he could not read. Some looked curious, others suspicious, and a few looked hostile. The throne room was enormous. At the far end, on a raised platform, sat the largest dragon Jack had ever seen. His scales were gold and silver mixed together, and scars covered his body. His eyes were the same bright yellow as Pip's, but ancient and filled with wisdom and grief. High Chancellor Thoros watched as they approached. His gaze focused entirely on Pip, who chirped and wiggled with excitement. "Papa!" Pip's voice was small and clear. She launched from Jack's shoulder and flew across the room. Her wing was strong enough now for real flight, even if she still wobbled a bit. She landed on Thoros and rubbed her head against his scales, making happy sounds. The ancient dragon's expression crumbled. He carefully wrapped his claws around his daughter and held her close. Jack saw something that looked like tears in those yellow eyes. For a long moment, Thoros simply held Pip and made a sound deep in his chest that might have been dragon equivalent of crying. Finally, Thoros looked at Jack. "You are the human who saved my daughter." It was not a question, but Jack answered anyway. "Yes, sir, I'm Jack Morrison." "Come closer, Jack Morrison. I would see the face of the one who gave me back my child." Jack walked forward until he stood directly in front of the platform. This close, Thoros was even more impressive and terrifying. The High Chancellor could have killed Jack with one swipe of his claw, but his eyes showed only gratitude. "I was told my daughter was dead," Thoros said softly. "The crash was catastrophic. Our best scanners found no life. I had begun preparing for the vengeance rituals. I would have declared war on humanity, on your entire sector, because I believed you had killed her." Jack swallowed hard. "I didn't know she was royalty. I just saw a hurt baby." "Yes." Voraxis explained this. Thoros set Pip down gently. She immediately ran to Jack and climbed back onto his shoulder. "My daughter has bonded with you. This is extraordinary. Draknir young bond with their parents and sometimes with siblings, never with another species. Yet she treats you as family." "I took care of her for a week," Jack said. "I fed her, kept her safe, helped her heal. I guess that matters more than species." A female dragon approached from the side. She was smaller than Thoros but still massive, with dark green scales and intelligent eyes. "High Chancellor, if I may examine the hatchling?" "Of course, Healer Kasara. This is our chief physician," Thoros explained to Jack. Kasara pulled out a device similar to what Voraxis had used and scanned Pip thoroughly. The healer's expression changed from professional to confused to amazed as she read the results. "This is impossible," Kasara said. Her injuries were severe, according to the crash site scans. Broken wing bones, internal damage, severe trauma. She should have died within hours. Yet she is not just healed, she is thriving. Her growth rate exceeds normal parameters by 30%. Her bone density is higher than average. She is healthier than hatchlings raised in our best facilities. "The human did this," Thoros said, "using primitive medicine." Kasara looked at Jack like he was a puzzle she needed to solve. "How?" "Our medical technology is advanced beyond anything humans possess." "How did you succeed where we would have failed?" Jack thought about how to explain it. "I didn't use advanced technology. I just watched her carefully. When she seemed uncomfortable, I adjusted the temperature. When she would not eat one thing, I tried something else. When her wing looked swollen, I changed how I wrapped it. I paid attention to her as an individual, not as a diagnosis. You treated her based on observation, Kasara said slowly, not based on established protocols. I didn't have protocols, Jack admitted. I'd never seen a dragon before. So I watched, learned, and adapted. Kasara exchanged looks with Thoros. Something passed between them that Jack could not interpret. Then the healer spoke carefully. High Chancellor. This could be significant. Our methods are based on genetic templates and standard treatments. We do not typically adjust for individual variations, because we never needed to, Thoros said. Our medicine was perfected thousands of years ago. But lately, he paused, looking at Pip. Lately, our hatchlings die despite perfect care, 40% survival rate. And we cannot determine why. Why? Kasara nodded. I have a proposal. The human should examine some of our struggling hatchlings. With the High Chancellor's permission, Jack felt nervous. I'm not a dragon doctor. I don't know if what worked for Pip will work for others. Neither do we, Thoros said. Our greatest healers have failed. Perhaps fresh eyes, human eyes, might see what we cannot. Will you try, Jack Morrison? Will you attempt to save more of our young? Jack looked at Pip, who chirped happily on his shoulder. He thought about baby dragons dying despite advanced medicine. He thought about how he would feel if he did nothing. I'll try, Jack said. But I need to be honest. I might fail. I might not be able to help them all. Honesty is valued among dragons, Thoros said. You will have access to anything you need. Healer Kasara will assist you. 3 hours later, Jack stood in the hatching chambers deep beneath the palace. The room was kept at precise temperature and humidity, monitored by sophisticated equipment. Dozens of eggs sat in carefully prepared nests. And in a separate area, Jack saw 3 young dragons who looked sick. Kasara explained their conditions. The first hatchling has respiratory issues. She cannot breathe fire properly, and her lungs sound congested. The second refuses to eat, and is losing weight rapidly. The third has skin problems. Her scales are developing incorrectly. Jack examined each hatchling carefully. They were all beautiful despite being sick. Their eyes showed fear and confusion. They did not understand why they felt bad. He spent 2 hours just watching them. He noticed things that seemed small, but might be important. The first hatchling breathed better when she was in a certain position. The second hatchling showed interest in food only when it was at a specific temperature. The third hatchling scratched at her scales more when other dragons were around. I have some ideas, Jack said finally. But they might sound strange to you. Everything about your methods sounds strange to us, Kasara said. Yet they work. What do you suggest? The first one needs more humidity. Her lungs are dry. In your climate, that might not seem like a problem. But she's an individual. She needs moisture. Jack pointed to the second hatchling. That one is stressed by the food schedule. Dragons probably have natural eating times based on circadian rhythms. She's being fed when she's not naturally hungry. Try feeding her at different times. Watch when she seems most interested. And the third? Kasara asked. She's overstimulated. Too many caretakers. Too much attention. Some babies need quiet and solitude to develop properly. Give her space. Limit the number of dragons who interact with her. Kasara looked skeptical but nodded. We will try your suggestions. But these seem too simple to be solutions. Sometimes simple is exactly what's needed, Jack said. Over the next 5 days, Jack visited the hatching chambers constantly. He made small adjustments to each hatchling's care. He had Kasara increase humidity for the first one gradually. He worked with the feeding staff to adjust the schedule for the second one. He set up a quiet area for the third one, where only one caretaker was allowed at a time. The results were remarkable. The first hatchling's breathing improved dramatically. She managed to produce a small flame on the 4th day, something she had never done before. The second hatchling started eating regularly once the schedule matched her natural rhythms. The third hatchling's scales began developing normally, in the quiet environment. By the end of the week, All three hatchlings were improving. Kasara ran tests constantly, unable to believe the results. Other healers came to observe and question Jack endlessly. "You are teaching us something we forgot," Kasara admitted on the 6th day. She and Jack stood watching the three hatchlings play together, all healthy now. "We became so focused on technology and perfect protocols that we stopped seeing each patient as unique. We treated conditions, not individuals. Humans had to learn this the hard way," Jack said. "Earth is dangerous. Our medicine evolved through trial and error, and paying attention to what actually worked, not what should work in theory." Word spread quickly through Drakara. The human had saved 3 hatchlings that dragon healers had declared untreatable. More dragons brought their sick young to Jack. He worked with Kasara and her team, teaching them to observe, adapt, and treat each case individually. Within a month, the hatching chamber survival rate increased from 40% to 65%. It was not perfect, but it was progress. Thoros summoned Jack to the throne room again. This time, dozens of dragons filled the space. They watched Jack with expressions very different from before. Now they looked at him with respect and hope. "Jack Morrison," Thoros announced in a voice that echoed through the hall. "You have done what we thought impossible. You have saved not just my daughter, but dozens of our young. You have taught us to see with new eyes. On behalf of the Draknir people, I offer you a place among us. Will you stay and continue teaching our healers?" Jack felt the weight of all those eyes on him. He thought about the baby dragons he had helped. He thought about Pip, who was never far from his side. He thought about how much more he could do if he stayed. "I'll stay," Jack said. "But I'll need help. Other humans who know medicine, who can teach your healers better than I can alone. We should make this an exchange. Dragon knowledge for human observation, both species learning from each other." Thoros smiled, showing all his teeth. "Agreed. Send for your human healers. We will welcome them, as we have welcomed you." As Jack left the throne room that day with Pip riding on his shoulder, he realized something. His small act of kindness had grown into something much bigger. He had built a bridge between species, not through politics or trade, but through the simple act of caring for those who needed help. And somehow, he knew this was only the beginning. Jack returned to human space 3 weeks later, on a dragon diplomatic vessel. The entire trip felt surreal. He was heading back to recruit a team of doctors and nurses to work with dragons, something that would have sounded crazy just 2 months ago. Pip came with him. The young dragon refused to be separated from Jack for long periods, and Thoros agreed she could travel as both companion and proof of Jack's work. She had grown significantly, and could now fly properly for short distances. She still preferred riding on Jack's shoulder, though she was getting too big for it. The recruitment process took a week. Jack interviewed dozens of candidates at Earth's main medical center. He needed people who were flexible, open-minded, and willing to work with a completely alien species. Most importantly, he needed people who understood that sometimes simple observation was better than complex technology. He selected 4 people. Amy Patterson was a pediatrician from Seattle with 20 years of experience. She had kind eyes and a gentle touch that even the most nervous children responded to. Kevin Ross was a veterinarian from Texas who specialized in reptiles. If anyone understood dragon biology, it would be him. Lisa Warren was a trauma nurse from Chicago who had worked in emergency medicine her entire career. She could stay calm in any crisis. Finally, Greg Palmer asked to join them. The colony administrator wanted to serve as their liaison with human governments and help coordinate the diplomatic side of things. When Jack introduced his team to Varaxis, the dragon commander looked skeptical. 5 humans to teach the entire Draknir medical community? 5 humans to start, Jack corrected. If this works, we'll bring more. But we need to prove the concept first. These 4 are the best at what they do. They returned to Drakara together. The human team spent their first week simply observing dragon medical facilities. Amy was fascinated by dragon biology. Kevin took detailed notes on everything from scale composition to digestive systems. Lisa studied dragon emergency medicine techniques. Greg established communication protocols with dragon officials. Kasara assigned them to work alongside dragon healers in different facilities. The dragons were polite but clearly doubtful that humans could teach them anything useful. That changed when they met Master Healer Dravok. Dravok was old even by dragon standards. His scales were silver with age, and he had trained generations of healers. He was also incredibly proud, and did not appreciate humans telling dragons how to practice medicine. "You claim to have saved hatchlings," Dravok said when they met. His voice was cold and formal. "I have been healing dragons for 200 years. What can a short-lived human possibly teach me?" Jack kept his voice respectful but firm. "I'm not here to replace your knowledge. I'm here to offer a different perspective. Sometimes an outside view helps." "I do not need a different perspective," Dravok said. "I need results, and I doubt very much that you can provide them." Kasara intervened. "Master Dravok, perhaps a demonstration would be valuable. We have a hatchling who has not responded to any treatment. If the humans can help where we have failed, would that prove their worth?" Dravok's eyes gleamed. "Very well. But when they fail, I expect this experiment to end immediately. We should not waste our time with primitive methods." He led them to a private chamber, where a small dragon lay motionless. The hatchling's name was Ember, and she looked close to death. Her scales were dull, her breathing shallow, and her eyes barely open. "Ember has a genetic disorder," Dravok explained. "We have tried every treatment in our medical database. Nothing works. She will die within days, perhaps hours. If your human methods can save her, I will personally apologize and learn everything you wish to teach." Jack knelt beside Ember and gently touched her scales. She was cold. Much colder than Pip had ever been. He looked at the medical readouts and saw pages of treatments tried and failed. "Can I have 72 hours with her?" Jack asked. "You can have whatever time remains to her," Dravok said, "which I doubt will be 72 hours. Jack gathered his team. They set up camp in Ember's room, taking shifts to monitor her constantly. Jack started doing what he did best: watching and learning. He noticed small things. Ember's breathing improved slightly when the room was warmer. Her eyes opened more when certain sounds played. She responded to touch on specific areas of her scales. None of these responses were strong, but they were there. Amy started singing to Ember. At first, it seemed pointless, but Jack noticed the hatchling's heart rate stabilized when Amy's voice hit certain frequencies. Kevin adjusted Ember's nutrition, trying different combinations based on how her body processed each nutrient. Lisa monitored everything, noting even the smallest changes. On the second day, Ember opened her eyes fully and made a small sound. It was the first vocalization she had made in weeks, according to the records. On the third day, Ember tried to lift her head. She failed, but the attempt was significant. Dragon healers who came to check on the experiment looked surprised. Jack combined dragon medicine with environmental changes. He had Amy sing to Ember for 1 hour every 4 hours. He had Kevin adjust her nutrition 3 times per day based on her responses. He had Lisa maintain constant monitoring, adjusting temperature and humidity hourly. "You're treating the whole patient, not just the disease," Kasara observed on the 4th day. "Exactly," Jack said. "Her genetic disorder is real, but it's not the only thing affecting her. She was dying from the disorder and from poor environmental conditions that made it harder for her body to cope. Fix both problems, and maybe her body can fight back." On the 7th day, Ember stood up. She was weak and wobbly, but she stood. She looked at Jack and his team and chirped softly. Master Healer Dravok stood in the doorway, staring in disbelief. "This is impossible. I have treated this condition for decades. No hatchling with this disorder has ever survived." "She's not cured," Jack said honestly. "The genetic disorder is still there. But we've given her body the support it needs to live with the condition. She'll need ongoing care, adjusted to her individual needs." Dravok approached Ember slowly. The old dragon ran his scanner over the hatchling and studied the results for a long time. When he looked up, His expression had changed completely. "I was wrong," Dravok said simply. "I have been wrong for many years. We focused so much on treating diseases that we forgot to care for patients. You have taught me more in 7 days than I learned in the last 20 years. He turned to Jack and bowed his head. I apologize for my pride. I would be honored to learn from you." Word of Ember's recovery spread across Drakkara like wildfire. Within days, every major dragon settlement requested human medical teams. The 4 humans worked with local healers, teaching them observation techniques and individual care approaches. Amy taught pediatric care, showing dragon healers how to read subtle signs in hatchling behavior. Kevin taught biology and nutrition, helping dragons understand individual variations in their own species. Lisa taught emergency response, focusing on rapid assessment and adaptive treatment. Greg coordinated everything, managing the logistics of expanding their program. 6 months passed. Jack watched as the program grew beyond anything he imagined. Human dragon medical teams now operated on 12 different dragon worlds. The hatching survival rate increased from 40% to 78% across the Draknir civilization. Jack himself trained dozens of dragon healers. Master Dravok became his most dedicated student, learning human medical philosophy with the enthusiasm of a young student. The old dragon admitted he had become too set in his ways and thanked Jack for opening his eyes again. Pip grew larger and stronger. She was now the size of a large dog and could fly for hours, but she still preferred to stay close to Jack, often sleeping curled up next to his bed. She had become famous among dragons as the first hatchling saved by human methods, and she wore that fame with cheerful pride. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm. Jack spent mornings teaching at the medical academy, afternoons treating difficult cases, and evenings with Pip. He had found a purpose he never knew he wanted, bridging 2 species through medicine and care. Then everything changed. Kasara burst into Jack's office one morning, her scales pale with stress. "Jack, we have a crisis. A plague has broken out on Draxus 3, one of our colony worlds. Hundreds of adult dragons are sick, and the number is growing. Our healers cannot identify the cause, and nothing we try is working." "How many sick?" Jack asked, already standing up. 3,000 so far. "And Jack, they are not just sick. They cannot breathe fire. For a dragon, losing their flame is worse than physical pain. It strikes at the core of who we are." Jack felt cold. "I'll get my team together. High Chancellor Thoros has already requested your presence. He is waiting at the launch bay. Jack, this is bad. If we cannot stop this plague, Draxus 3 might lose its entire population. 50,000 dragons live there." Jack gathered Amy, Kevin, and Lisa. Within an hour, they were on a ship heading to Draxus 3. Voraxis commanded the vessel personally, and his expression was grim. "If this plague spreads beyond Draxus 3, it could devastate our entire species," Voraxis said. "The colony went from completely healthy to hundreds sick in just 3 days. Whatever this is, it moves fast and hits hard." Jack looked out the view screen at the stars rushing past. 6 months ago, he was a bored mining engineer. Now he was racing to save 50,000 dragons from a mysterious plague. Pip pressed against his side, sensing his worry. Jack put his hand on her scales and felt her warmth. He had saved 1 dragon baby by paying attention and caring when it mattered. Now he had to do the same thing on a massive scale. He just hoped it would be enough. The ship jumped to faster than light speed, and Jack prepared himself for the biggest challenge of his life. 50,000 lives depended on what his team could discover and how fast they could work. Sometimes, Jack thought, saving 1 life was just the beginning. The real test was whether you could do it again and again when everything was on the line. Draxus 3 looked peaceful from orbit. The colony world was smaller than Drakkara, with green forests and blue oceans that reminded Jack of Earth. It looked nothing like a place where thousands were dying. The ship landed at the main settlement. As soon as the doors opened, Jack heard the sounds of suffering. Dragons were everywhere, lying in the streets, their scales dull and their breathing labored. Medical tents filled every open space. The healthy dragons who remained rushed between patients, their movements desperate. A dragon healer named Syrinx met them at the landing pad. She looked exhausted, her scales covered in dust. "Thank the ancestors you are here. We have lost 200 dragons already. 3,000 more are sick. And the number grows every hour. We have tried everything in our medical database. Nothing works. Show me the patients," Jack said. They walked through the settlement. Jack saw dragons of all ages lying weak and helpless. The worst part was the expressions on their faces. Dragons defined themselves by their fire. Their ability to breathe flame was central to their identity. These dragons looked broken in spirit as much as in body. Amy immediately started examining patients with Syrinx. Kevin collected samples for analysis. Lisa set up triage systems to organize the chaos. Jack moved between patients, watching and listening. Something felt wrong about this plague. The symptoms were too uniform. Every dragon showed the same signs: respiratory failure, inability to produce flame, weakness, and confusion. Diseases usually varied between patients, affecting individuals differently. This was too consistent. "Tell me about when it started," Jack asked Syrinx. 3 days ago," the healer explained. Dragons began reporting difficulty breathing. Within hours, they could not produce flame. By the next day, hundreds were sick. It spread so fast we thought it was airborne, but our tests show no biological agent. "No biological agent?" Jack stopped walking. "You found no virus? Bacteria? Or parasite?" "Nothing. The air is clean. The water is pure. The food is uncontaminated. Yet dragons are dying. Thanks for watching. You can dating this video. The 15 and donated. With you not offendifine rather. When you lauder over the faner, comply and disdated, and donated, Jack felt a spark of understanding. If it was not biological and not in the consumables, then what? What about environmental factors? Anything change in the settlement recently? Syrinx thought about it. "We expanded into the Northern Territory 2 weeks ago. Built new housing near the Crystalline Mountains. Many of the sick dragons live in that area." "Show me those mountains," Jack said. They flew north in a small transport. The crystalline mountains rose from the landscape like giant shards of colored glass. They were beautiful, catching the sunlight and throwing rainbow patterns across the ground. The newest dragon housing sat at the base of these formations. Jack stepped out of the transport and immediately felt strange. His ears felt pressure, like when altitude changed too quickly. There was a faint hum in the air. So quiet he almost missed it. "Do you hear that?" Jack asked his team. Amy tilted her head. "Yes, it's very faint." "I hear it too," Kevin said. "What is it?" Jack pulled out his portable scanner, the simple human device he always carried. It was basic compared to dragon technology, but measured things differently. The readings showed unusual acoustic activity. "There's a sound frequency here," Jack said slowly. "Very high pitch. The crystals are generating it." Syrinx looked confused. "Our scanners detected no harmful emissions from the crystals. We tested extensively before building here." "What frequency do your scanners check?" Kevin asked. "All frequencies that affect Draknir biology," Syrinx said. "Our medical database is comprehensive." Jack felt the pieces clicking together. "But your scanners use the same frequencies for operation, don't they? You built your technology to work within dragon biological ranges. You cannot detect things outside those ranges because you never needed to." "I do not understand," Syrinx said. "Humans hear different frequencies than dragons," Amy explained. "Our ears evolved on a different world with different conditions. We can hear things you cannot. And you can hear things we cannot." Jack pointed at the crystals. "These formations are emitting a frequency that affects dragon respiratory systems. Your scanners cannot detect it because dragon technology operates within safe ranges for your species. The frequency is outside what you normally monitor. Cyrix pulled out her own scanner and adjusted its settings based on Jack's readings. Her eyes widened. The readings are there. We just never looked for them because our standard medical protocols do not include these frequencies. They are considered irrelevant to Draknir health. But they are not irrelevant, Lisa said. They're killing you. Jack walked through the settlement with his scanner. The toxic frequency was strongest near the crystalline mountains, but spread throughout the area. Every dragon living here was being constantly exposed. Their respiratory systems were being damaged slowly, progressively, until they could no longer function. This is not a plague, Jack announced when they returned to the medical center. It's environmental poisoning. The crystals are emitting a frequency that damages dragon lungs. You cannot detect it because your technology was not designed to look for it. But humans can hear it. The revelation spread through the medical teams. Dragon healers checked Jack's findings and confirmed them. The source of the sickness was found, but now they faced a new problem. We must evacuate 50,000 dragons, Cyrix said. But where? Every nearby settlement is already at capacity. We need to filter the frequency, Kevin said. Block it somehow. Dragon technology cannot detect it reliably, Cyrix protested. How can we block what we cannot measure? Use human equipment, Jack said. Our acoustic sensors can track the frequency. We design filters based on what we can hear and measure. Then we use dragon engineering to build those filters on a large scale. It was a perfect combination of human and dragon capabilities. Over the next week, Jack's team worked with dragon engineers. They mapped every source of the toxic frequency using human sensors. Dragon engineers built massive filter arrays based on human designs. The filters worked like sound dampening technology, absorbing and neutralizing the harmful emissions. Meanwhile, Amy, Lisa, and the dragon healers treated the sick. Now that they knew the cause, treatment became possible. Dragons were moved away from contaminated areas. Their lungs were given time to heal. Medication was adjusted to help repair the damage. The recovery was not instant, but it was steady. Within 2 weeks, dragons began producing flame again. The psychological effect was profound. Jack watched as a dragon breathed fire for the first time after being sick, and the joy on that dragon's face made all the hard work worthwhile. By the end of the month, all 50,000 dragons on Draxus 3 were safe. The filters protected the settlement. The sick recovered. Not a single dragon died after the cause was identified, though the 200 who died before still weighed heavy on everyone's hearts. High Chancellor Thoros arrived on Draxus 3 to see the resolution personally. He stood with Jack on a balcony overlooking the settlement, watching dragons go about their lives normally again. You saved my people twice now, Thoros said quietly. First my daughter, now an entire colony. You saw what we could not see. You heard what we could not hear. You solved a problem that would have killed thousands more if left undetected. We worked together, Jack said. Human sensors and dragon engineering. Neither could have done it alone. Exactly. Thoros turned to face Jack fully. This is why I am proposing a formal alliance to the Galactic Council. Not just medical cooperation, but full partnership between humans and Draknir. Your species sees the universe differently than we do. Together, we are stronger than apart. Other species might benefit from this too, Jack said thoughtfully. If humans can detect things dragons cannot, maybe we can help others in similar ways. Thoros smiled. 3 other species have already contacted me requesting human medical advisors. Word has spread through the galaxy about what you accomplished here. Humans are becoming known as the species that solves impossible problems by looking from unexpected angles. Jack thought about that. 6 months ago, humanity was considered a minor species, barely noticed by the galactic community. Now, because of medical cooperation and different perspectives, humans were gaining a reputation as valuable partners. I need to return to Drakara, Jack said. There's a new group of human doctors arriving next week. I need to train them. I will arrange transportation, Thoros said. But first, There is a ceremony. The people of Draxus 3 wish to honor you and your team. The ceremony was held in the central plaza. 50,000 dragons gathered to thank the 4 humans who saved them. Jack stood with Amy, Kevin, and Lisa. Feeling small and overwhelmed, the dragons sang, a deep rumbling sound that vibrated through the ground. It was beautiful and powerful and humbling. The colony leader presented Jack with a crystal shard, carefully filtered to be safe. This represents our gratitude. You heard what we could not hear. You saw what we could not see. You saved us by being different, not despite being different. Back on Drakara, Jack returned to his work training new human medical teams. The program had grown massive. 20 different dragon worlds now hosted human advisors. The hatchling survival rate had reached 84% across all Draknir territories. Dragons and humans worked side by side in hospitals, research centers, and emergency response teams. Master Healer Dravok had become one of Jack's closest friends. The old dragon often said that Jack taught him the most important lesson of his long life. Never stop learning. Never assume you know everything. And always be willing to see through someone else's eyes. Pip had grown into a young adult dragon. She was magnificent, with deep blue scales and bright yellow eyes. She could fly for hours and breathe fire hot enough to melt steel, but she still preferred sleeping near Jack's quarters, and she still chirped happily when he came home each evening. One evening, Amy found Jack on his balcony overlooking the capital. Pip dozed beside him, her scales warm in the fading light. 3 more species requested human medical missions today, Amy said, sitting down next to him. The Council is calling us the problem solvers. The species that sees what others miss. Strange how it all started, Jack said. I just stopped to help an injured baby. I did not think about politics or alliances, or changing humanity's place in the galaxy. I just saw someone who needed help. That is what makes it powerful, Amy said. You did not help expecting anything in return. You just cared. And that simple act of caring created all of this. Jack looked at Pip, remembering the tiny, frightened hatchling he found in a crashed ship. Now she was strong and healthy and happy. She had brought him into a larger world. One where small acts of kindness echoed across entire civilizations. Do you think we can keep this going? Jack asked. Training enough humans, working with enough species, making a real difference? I think we already are, Amy said, and I think it will only grow. Because what we offer is not technology or weapons or trade goods. We offer perspective, empathy, and the willingness to see each patient as an individual. That will never go out of style. Months turned into years. The Human-Dragon Medical Exchange became permanent. Joint research centers opened on both Earth and Drakara. Young humans trained alongside young dragons. Learning from each other, the galaxy watched and learned. Other species began requesting human advisors for problems that had nothing to do with medicine. Human engineers helped solve construction problems. Human teachers helped develop new educational methods. Human diplomats helped negotiate peace treaties by seeing conflicts from unexpected angles. Humanity was no longer a minor species. They were partners, valued for their unique perspective and willingness to help. And it all traced back to one mining engineer who stopped to help a dying baby dragon. Jack Morrison eventually received the title of Chief Medical Advisor to the Draknir people. He trained hundreds of human dragon medical teams. He solved dozens of impossible medical cases. He became famous across the galaxy. But he never forgot the most important lesson. Technology was not enough. Knowledge was not enough. Intelligence was not enough. What mattered most was caring enough to pay attention, to see the individual, to adapt and learn and never give up. Years later, when asked how he changed humanity's place in the galaxy, Jack always gave the same answer. I did not change anything. I just helped one small creature who needed me. Everything else followed from that. Sometimes the biggest changes in the universe start with the smallest acts of kindness. You just have to care enough to stop and help when someone needs you. Pip, now a fully grown dragon and mother to hatchlings of her own, would always chirp in agreement. She never forgot the human who saved her life when no one else could. She never forgot that kindness could bridge any distance, cross any difference, and change any future. And she made sure her own children knew the story of how one human, one act of compassion, and one small dragon baby helped create a friendship that spanned the stars.